Last week, we talked about how the concept of the best filter, light, whatever it may be for your aquarium, isn't that easy. It's not just one item, no matter what. It's all dependent upon your particular situation and the environment that you're trying to set up. Well, I got a comment on that video, and I think that person was reading my mind. From Doug. Bentley, I love the video, but as an absolute beginner, I have no idea how to calculate the best. I just purchased a 20 long and want to do some, assuming that's scaping, but with low light plants and a community of fish. 2 to 4 corridors as cleanup crew, 6 to 10 green, black, or neon tetras as some schooling fish, then a German blue ram or a dwarf gourami as a centerpiece. So that's what I want. Now, how do I figure out what I need? Let's talk about it. Hello everyone, this is Bentley, and today we're going to talk about a very beginner-friendly and or kind of intermediate-friendly way to figure out how to set up your aquariums with the right equipment. And right needs to be in some quotation marks. What the real goal here is not to say like, this is the absolute best, this is the only way to do it. This is more like some easy rules or guidelines to follow that will help you set up for success and ensuring a better chance at having a beautiful and healthy tank long term. Let's talk about the first rule when it comes to filtration. Filtration is one of the most important parts in our aquariums. Getting the nitrogen cycle down is important. And here, one of the key things is patience, patience, patience. But when it comes down to selecting the right filter for your tank, that might be difficult. Many filters, especially like our hang-on backs and our canisters, will tell us the number of gallons per hour they can handle or the maximum size tank that they're equipped to handle. The easiest rule for most of these powered filters is to go one step higher than what that filter suggests. So let me give you an example. We'll use Doug's tank, a 20-gallon long, okay, 20 gallons. Let's say that we want to do a hang-on back filter. If we were looking at like an AquaClear, there's an AquaClear 20 that's designed to handle up to 20 gallons. Realistically, what we would want to do is go at least one step up. So that's going to be like the 30. You might even go all the way up to the AquaClear 50. Why? What we want to make sure is that regardless of the number of fish in our tank, that powered filter has plenty of bio capacity to handle whatever life throws at us. We can do the same thing with canister filters. Let's say that a FX6, right? Or FX4, one of those, like, or the 407s, or some of the Awases, whatever, there's lots of them, right? Let's say that it is designed to handle up to a 75-gallon tank because it processes 300 gallons per hour or whatever it says. We'd probably want to go one step up if we were at 75 gallons. Or you can go the crazy person route and go multiple filters. In this case, what I would say is, if you're looking at a filter that's designed to handle up to a 75-gallon tank, and you're on a 75-gallon tank, go one step up. So if let's say the 307 is designed to handle up to that much, then you would look at the 407 as an example. This isn't perfect, but just understand that this is the basic concept. If you go just a little bit bigger than what your tank is, you are usually fairly safe long term because it has more media it can hold. It doesn't necessarily matter the type of media that's in there. It's more about making sure that the general idea is just a little bit better than what is the max for your current size. So if you're at like that 20-gallon long, you don't want to get something that's like designed to handle up to 20 gallons. You want to go something a little bit bigger just in case. That way you have a little bit more room. Let's say you were keeping guppies or something, you could have them have babies and not worry about overloading the potential bio capacity of that filter. Let's say you're doing sponges, okay? Because sponges aren't as obvious, often most people will say, oh, well, a medium sponge will handle up to a 40-gallon tank. If you're doing a simple 10-gallon, one sponge is usually fine. But if you would only need, say, a small sponge, get the medium-sized sponge. Just go a little bigger. It gives a little bit more surface area for your beneficial bacteria. It'll take a little bit longer to get all the detritus in it, so you might not have to maintain it every 2 weeks. You could probably go a month. But that little extra just is a safety net. This is about doing it the simple, safe way. Very simple, very safe. Keep it simple, right? The KISS method. We'll leave out the other part. That's for the dummies like me on the internet, but keep it simple. Makes it easy. Now, in a case of a 20 gallon long, you've got the room. Either A, upgrade yourself to a Matten style filter, right? Just because it has such a huge amount of surface area. But if you're worried about how to install that correctly, just go with 2 sponge filters instead. Put one on each side of the tank. You're A-okay. You don't necessarily have to have 2 different air pumps, but it might actually be better for you to have 2 different air pumps just in case one goes out, then you still have one operating. It's like giving yourself a built-in backup. Play it safe. It will help you in the long run. Let's talk about lighting. This is where it's a little harder because often lights nowadays are just too powerful for their own good until you start going into the really crazy levels of doing stuff. So let's use Doug's example again, right? He's got a 20 gallon long and he wants to do mostly low requirement plants. If your plant selection is mostly easy plants and your tank is 16 to 17 inches tall, so like a 40 gallon breeder, a 20 gallon long, 30 gallon breeders, a regular 20 gallon, a 10 gallon, you're going to be okay with something like the Hygrolite, an Aquaneat, a Phoenix Stingray. A lot of these more budget-friendly lights, you don't need a super powerful light. Now, could you go and get the Fluval plant, like Bentley's favorite light, right? Could you go and get a Chihiros Vivid, these super powerful, super controllable lights? Yes, but you will need to dial them down because the lighting requirements of the plants we're selecting in this case don't need it. So you're going to put way more light into this tank and you're going to have algae. What I would generally suggest is if you have an option, get a light that you can dim, okay? You don't want a light that just has a static power setting unless you are very heavily planting the tank. And I'm talking like this behind me where you see, you see open substrate, but for the most part you see big masses of plants. If you're going to have a couple crypts here and an Anubias here and one Java fern over here and like 1 stem, 2 stem, 3 stem, and they're all spread out because you're starting early, get something you can dim so that you can control it and make sure that you're not putting too much light into the tank. And if you start seeing lots of hair algae, we're going to dim that light down, and we're also not going to run that light for a super long period of the day. We're only going to run it for like 8 hours tops. The goal of this is so that as you start, you can slowly learn the balance that your tank needs and operate off of that balance. And as more stuff grows in, as your tank matures, as you get to this kind of plant density like we have in the tank behind me, then you can dial the power up because now there is sufficient plant growth to help fight off the potential for algae. But you might still get algae if you're filling it with nothing but Java fern. You can still get algae if you push that light too high because it's not a super demanding plant. So there's a potential that some misbalance can occur and algae can start to work off of that misbalance and utilize some of that excess light. So we've covered filtration and light. If we were to go specifically what Bentley would put together on this 20 gallon line long so far, right? Doug, for you, we're looking at tetras, so we're not looking at something with really big finnage. We're not looking at something that can't handle flow very well. We're looking at Corydoras and either a blue ram or a gourami. Me personally, I would choose the gourami. Let me explain why. German blue rams are beautiful. You can either go to Bolivian ram if you were going to go the ram route. But the reason why I say not the blue ram and maybe the gourami is because blue rams really like to be very warm. And there aren't as many Corydoras who like to sit at that super hot temperature continuously. They often are more in the like mid and low 70s. So that's why I would look at a gourami or a Bolivian ram, as they can handle those slightly lower temperatures. German blue rams really like to be like 82, 83 degrees, sometimes even hotter. Fine for tetras, but a lot of Corydora species, you're going to limit yourself, and you also kind of shorten their lifespan. So in your case, what I would be doing something like this. I would choose either that gourami or a Bolivian ram, which when they color up, they're beautiful. Don't worry. Yeah, I know German blue rams are the super stunner, but trust me, good looking fish. Just give it a little patience. It's like rainbow fish. A little bit of patience, it pays off. You pick your tetras, you pick your Corydoras. I would go with an Aqua Clear 50 or a Tidal 55 if you want a hang-on-back filter. If you want to do this with sponge filters to help save a little money and invest in a slightly nicer light that has more control to it, then I would do 2 sponge filters. I would run them on 2 separate air pumps if you're going to do the 2 sponge filters. Okay? And it's purely for the reason of I want to make sure that if one air pump goes out, I've still got one running and I don't have to worry about it. Whatever planning you're going to do, get your plants in there, account for those. And then on the light, I want something controllable. So I'm going to look at either like Phoenix 24/7, good option. If you're willing to spend a little bit of money and you want to power it down some, the Aqua Sky. Honestly, the Fluval Aqua Sky, with everything you're looking at, it's not super powerful like the plant, but it's controllable, similar to the plant. You can do it all in the app. It's fantastic. I've used it in 40-gallon breeders. It grows all sorts of low-demand plants phenomenally well. You can also look at, if you need to save a little bit more money and maybe you really want to power up that filtration, you're going to go like a canister filter because you want lots and lots and lots of biomedia. You want to play it super safe. At that point, what I would look at is something like the Higer or the JCNP, something that has a controllable setting. When the aquarium co-op light comes out, that might also be a decent option because it's dimmable. But lights similar to that design. You want something that you can control and dim down. You don't want it only to have like, this is the only power setting and that's all you get forever. Now, the other thing we want to do is if we have a light that has some kind of day-night cycle built into it, like the Pro and Auto modes for the Fluvals, like the 24/7 mode, what we want to do is find something where we've only got the light on for about 8 hours a day. We don't want a 24-hour light cycle. We really don't need a light night. We don't need to do any of night light. We really don't need a night light or anything like that going on while the fish sleep. We want a nice, easy 8 hours of light. If you have a ramp up and ramp down, we're going to use part of that ramp up and part of that ramp down in that same 8 hours. So if you have an hour on each end, you'd have 6 hours at full power. Perfect. That's okay. From here, you need to talk about substrate. You want to have Corydoras. You're probably going to want to have some kind of finer substrate that they can sift through. Aqua soils like Fluval Stratum, Rio Oscuro Brightwell's Rio Oscuro, even ADA, UNS, all those like kind of round ball substrates, those are all perfectly fine with Corydoras. But realistically, kind of the best that you can put them on is some form of sand. Carib Sea has a number of good decorative sands. There's also, if you have rock yards nearby, there's a sand called Lapis Luster that actually does really, really well. I would generally avoid blasting sands and the super, super fine pool filter sands. You want something that's a little more coarse-grained but not sharp. If you're going to do some kind of gravel or rocks, something like that, find something that is more round and smooth river-style pebbles and not sharper things. Those can injure the Cory's barbels, and we don't want to have that happening. That's basically it. That's kind of a tailored video for one person. But the important things here is we can use the example to understand that basics are easy if we just think about it in this way. When it comes to filtration, go one step up at a minimum. You can go a little bit more, but don't overkill it. You don't need an FX6 on a 20-gallon lawn. If you were going to do like a hang-on back that says this can handle up to a 20-gallon aquarium, find one that says it can do up to a 40-gallon aquarium or up to a 30-gallon aquarium. And if the flow seems like it's too much, if it seems like your fish are struggling, just dial the flow down a little bit. Almost all of our filters nowadays are controllable with their flow rate. Dial it down just a touch. They're going to be okay. The only case where you really need to dial down flow is fish that have really long finnage. So this is like some of your super long fin guppies, like veil-tailed bettas that have a lot of finnage. They're the ones that are going to want areas of calm water. So if you are in a smaller, shallower tank, like a 20-gallon long, don't put like an AquaClear 70 on this thing. Dial it back a little bit. Go with like the 50 kind of at the max, maybe slightly under that if you can find one, and you'll be okay. Trust me, they can handle it. They come from all sorts of water systems. But we don't want to go too crazy because then that's when your fish can actually have some issues and struggle. When it comes to light, if all of your plants are easy plants, find a light that you can dim or that isn't super powerful to begin with. You don't have to have the Fluval Plant 3.0. You don't need to have a Chihiros Vivid. You only really need those if your tank is either A, very tall, so that there's lots of light diffraction occurring, and I'll have a video in the corner now that'll help teach you a little bit more about light. It's really easy, really simple, it's some basic concepts, but basically put bigger tanks, bigger, more powerful lights. Smaller tanks, smaller lights. But the real killer here is that it is important to make sure the plant demand meets the light you're using. If you have all easy plants, you don't need a powerful light. If you have all of these, like, if you look at a plant and it has like a red sticker on it, like in your tissue culture plants, or a lot of fish stores will label their plants as easy to hard in some way, shape, or form, like a green, yellow, red system. If it's all red, if it's the hard plants, probably needs more light and might even need CO2. So we're going to try and avoid those early on. We want to get our feet under ourselves, get used to how to do these things, and then look at going toward those kind of plants in the future in that next tank that we do, where we're going to step it up a little bit and challenge ourselves. That's it, guys. This is a kind of using an example from Doug. Thank you for your comment. I really appreciate it. But I wanted to go over some basics of understanding how we can take a simple comment to calculate what is best for our aquarium. It's not about a single piece of hardware. It's just about understanding the requirements of your tank and how to not go too crazy, but also not go too under and potentially have some risks involved. So with that being said, I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments below. Did you learn something? Is there something in this you feel that I missed? Let me know down below in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a little thumbs up. It's one of the best ways that you can help your friendly neighborhood YouTuber like me. And, maybe even share it. I don't know. Get a friend who's like building a brand new tank, needs a little help. Maybe this will help them understand how to pick the right set of equipment for their new aquarium. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.